it was all loud, and that was after the morning teachings by Kenjen Rinpoche. Kenjen Rinpoche did another program for the Vietnamese on the four dharmas of Gampopa, um, which, by the way, Karmapa Ogentin Doje has been teaching as well for the last week already on the four dharmas of Gampopa. So if you go to Facebook and look for the profile of Karmapa, and surprise, surprise, there are two Karmapas. So the main Karmapa, look for that profile. And he has been teaching at least, I think, about 1 hour each day. If you go to that profile, you can see, because there is simultaneous translation in the different languages. So look for the English one. Particularly the first 3 days, he talked about the life of Gampopa, where clearly he did a lot of research. And basically, I'm happy to see that he is bringing some modern contemporary research into history. So he is nuancing the story of Gampopa and nuancing the kind of the usual presentation of lineage. A couple of you have joined, or rather, so far, the Wednesday night Drikung Dhammakirti, and you see that I'm doing that there. So probably for my own agenda, I'm glad to see the Karmapa doing that. Basically, which is to say that, in the Kagyu, often it says Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Gampopa, then Karmapa or Pamodrupa or whoever. But anyway, it's like this single line, when in fact it's very clear that Gampopa was as much a Kadampa disciple, 3 generations, I think, removed from Atisha. He was as much a Kadampa monk as he was a disciple of Milarepa. That yes, Milarepa gave him the means to push through to enlightenment. Milarepa provided him that, which his Kadampa training wasn't able to deliver. But once he pushed through to the other side, so to say, it's also clear that then from that point until his death, whenever he instructed disciples, he relied heavily on his Kadampa material. So he blended the two together. And so then the bigger point that I've been making with this issue of lineage is that one helpful way to think about lineage is to understand that on the subjective level, you and me, lineage is constructed backwards. So to say, right? On the subjective level, it's constructed backwards in the sense of, where do we start? Well, necessarily I have to start with me, right? Then you kind of you look at me, and also all the years you've been involved in Dharma, right? There's many influences, but this is not just because we're in the West that there are many influences. Even if you're in Tibet, there are always many influences. Although people probably didn't travel so much and didn't have the internet, but nonetheless, relative to their context, it was many influences. Then at a certain point, you have some of us have a clearer sense, like primarily this is the teacher I'm working with, right? Then you say, oh, how does he or she self identify? Oh, he self identifies as a Kagyupa. He self identifies as a Kato Monastery Nyingma. He self identifies as a Dujum lineage, right? And then from there, you work back up, right? Until you get to Tilopa, until you get to Pemasambhava. In that sense, it's you're working backwards, so to say. But knowing that, then the take home lesson from that is that one, it's an active process. It doesn't just happen to you, right? So it gives you this kind of understanding that you are taking responsibility for your own nourishment, for your own growth. Yeah, it's not just something that mysteriously or accidentally happens to you. To recognize that, oh, you know I made this choice, right? And then whoever I connected with, imagine the choices that he or she made, right? And then next, right? One generation up, and the choices made, and the choices made, and suddenly you realize, oh my gosh, what are the odds of all these choices, right, happening in a particular way, and then now me, right? And it's like, wow, if this is coincidence, this is like winning the lottery uh, straight 5 times. Not just the lottery with like $2, the scratch, but the big one, like 5 times, right? Given all the chances and the accidents, so to say, that could have occurred at each generation, this is the particular line, right? And this particular line is again, so then the second take home lesson is this particular line, for the sake of not causing our head to explode, we imagine it to be single lined. But it was never single lined. There's always strands being pulled together and pulled together and pulled together and pulled together. Right? So Gampopa did not only have one teacher, he had so many teachers of so many varying degrees of influence on him. And so each of Gampopa's teachers also had so many influences. And each of Gampopa's students also had so many influences that tied together strands and strains that probably never met before, or maybe have met several points in the transmission lines. So all of those are being tied together as well, which then brings us to the point of, in that sense, the 4 or 5, however you count, main lineages of Tibetan Buddhism, everybody is involved with everybody. Yeah, genetic coding of all these lineages are definitely present in, I don't care whatever lineage you happen to have identified with. They're all joined together. Which then means on the issue of like samaya, right? Bond, commitment, or as Gajen Rinpoche calls it, love, then we have to keep this love. We have to keep this commitment. We have to keep this bond. We should not like, oh, mine is better, yours is not so good. Because once we do that, then we are damaging our own roots because they're all intertwined, you know. Which is not to say that the masters did not debate each other. I'm not like suggesting that we go into La La Land. I can tell you among my teachers, some of them, at least on the surface level, don't even like to be in the same room. you know? But that's okay. That's the thing. That's the point. It's okay. Yeah, because we are taught like on the surface level, we are to relate to this as manifesting certain things for us to see. Now, sometimes I'm tempted to And maybe you are tempted too to say, but really, what is going on? Like I want to know, but really, what is going on, right? Instead of like, oh, what I can learn from this, right? What good lessons can I learn from this? Which is how we are taught, like rather than, but really, what is going on, right? But you know what? The thing about really what's going on is what I call like trying to produce a balance sheet, uh, a P&L, right? For life. Yeah, good luck. Yeah, good luck trying to produce a P&L for life. And there's no end to trying to balance that balance sheet. But the thing is, before you can balance that sheet, you'll be dead more times than you can remember. So why bother, right?
Yeah.
So on that level, all the rights and wrongs in the world, you know, we have to wisely choose. Given how much time we have, given how much we can actually do something about it, choose wisely which rights and wrongs you try to sort out and which rights and wrongs you just say, you know what, no time for that. Really. Like right now, there's so many issues. Yeah. So the sustainability issues, people, huh? They cannot wrap their head around the gender equality issues, people. Yeah. The gender equalities people cannot wrap their heads around, the racial equality people. The racial equality people cannot wrap their heads around. The vegan people. The vegan people cannot wrap their heads around, you know, some other issue. So, and the thing is not, I'm not saying that you should not care about these things, but be realistic, choose wisely. And then to say, what is the most important, hmm, in terms of this mind, this heart, you know? So then, of course, it comes back to, may the Dharma become clear. It's four dharmas of Gampopa. As I started saying, Karmapa is teaching that right now. Then Khenchen Rinpoche, as the last couple of times I've been teaching Vietnamese students. So the first line of four dharmas of Gampopa, in modern versions, it's may my mind turn towards the Dharma. And again, Karmapa did some research, and he said it seems like the earliest version of that is may the Dharma become the Dharma, rather than may the mind become the Dharma, or may the mind turn to Dharma. It says may the Dharma turn towards Dharma. And that's the earliest version of that, of that formulation. And so very interesting, he talked about, he's trying to figure out at what point and who changed it. He suspected the third Karmapa, if not the main person who changed it, but certainly in the third Karmapa's writings, is when you start to see, may the mind turn towards the Dharma. But then he said, so any of the people who wrote about this prior to the third Karmapa had it as may Dharma turn towards the Dharma. By the way, Longchenpa, who was one of the teachers and students of third Karmapa, third Karmapa and Longchenpa had a mutual relationship of teacher-student. Longchenpa wrote a very influential commentary on the four dharmas of Gampopa. And really, we call it four dharmas of Gampopa, but it doesn't belong to Gampopa. You know, it's a summary of the whole path, the whole process of waking up. So Longchenpa wrote, that has been translated into English. Chogyal Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche, I think, did one translation. And then somebody else did an earlier translation on this. Um, so anyway, the Karmapa was saying how the earliest version made the Dharma turns toward the Dharma. He said, in his opinion, seems to be more profound, or the point it makes is really important. And he says, so basically, what it's saying there is, he says, well, of course, essentially in the commentaries, the meaning is the same. But then when we say, may the Dharma becomes the Dharma, then it's saying, it's warning us, it's pointing us, pointing out to us how even what that seemingly looks like Dharma practice can be misused so that it is not to further Dharma goals, Dharmic goals. Yeah. So in the West, we might approach Dharma as a way to fulfill our secular humanist um, kind of value system. You know, in Asia, the Dharma becomes what Trungpa Rinpoche has coined as spiritual materialism. So Jambala, oh, wealth, Amitayu, long life, Tara, problems go away. Yeah. Medicine Buddha, no more sickness, don't need to wear a mask. You know, so gym soon, no need to wear a mask. uh, but so in Asia, Dharma often becomes like that. Yeah, just to beautify samsara. So then Gampopa says, may Dharma actually serve as Dharma. And then the next line, then the next three lines it's not, nothing has changed, which is the next line is may the Dharma become the method. So the term used is path. A path basically means method, basically means process. So I think sometimes the word path, we use it so often, so frequently that we don't remember. Wait, what is it? Path basically means method turned into process. Yeah, applying the methods so that the process of purification, the process of waking up actually takes place. Yes, so the Dharma has to turn towards the Dharma, has to become the Dharma. Then when it becomes the Dharma, meaning now we are understanding, what Dharma is really for, then that needs to become our process, become our method. And then when that starts to work, then it will remove the obscurations, the kleshas. And then finally, when kleshas are removed, are purified, then light, when darkness is removed, the light dawns. So that at that point is saying, you don't create the light. The light is already there. Darkness is simply an absence of light. Once, there is light, darkness of 1 billion years can disappear in one instance. So anyway, Dharmas of Gampopa this morning. In between, workers were pounding and sawing away. And then I wasn't sure if I could join you guys, but everything got done at 12:15, and so then I thought, oh, let me drop in and say hello. So Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Such perfect timing. It was like less than 60 seconds after we finished listening to you guide us through a meditation.
Yes, I talked to Bill Gates. He gave me the information. He's tracking Jim now. So
We're going to use your meditation in our 12-step meeting at 1 o'clock.
oh, okay.
First time.
Oh, okay. It might send someone to sleep, you know.
Nah.
The word to sleep in Cantonese Chinese, is a homonym for religion. To sleep and religion, it's different, you know, written differently, but the sound is a homonym for to sleep. And so I have my own lojong statement in Cantonese, which translates to something, you know, because they are homonyms. So I say something along the lines of like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it doesn't matter what religion you adopt or you have, as long as that religion will allow you to sleep well, to sleep and to religion. Yeah. So yeah, in that sense, right? We can't sleep because our minds are not at ease, not settled, cannot rest. So resting the mind, you know, it's like we forgot how to rest the mind, and the mind is yelling and screaming, you know, like I want to rest, I want to rest.
I was watching this show last night on PBS.
Uh-huh.
It was in French with subtitles, and it was kind of it was called The Tunnel, and
The
it was
tunnel.
the tunnel, and it was a suspense, and it had some torture in it. But
Hmm.
the antagonist girl, she said, I mean, she had a real attitude, and right at the end of her life, they were getting ready to kill her, and she didn't care, and her dad was his
Mhm.
professor, and blah blah. But she said something that just made my heart so happy. And she said, "Well, go ahead and kill me. I've been dead before." I thought that was wonderful. That made me feel so good. Hey, go ahead. Been
Right.
there, done that.
So yeah, so anyway, here is 2021. I saw a meme from, of course, you know, a Buddhist teacher. I forgot who it was, but they shared a meme on Facebook where it said like, if you miss this one, or if your resolution, your New Year resolution has already failed, don't worry. There is 19 more chances for this year. So it lists out all the different cultures and the different New Years that are coming up. There's 19 more. So in that sense, of course, you know, it's arbitrary. But nonetheless, you know, our bodies and our minds have been habituated to the cycle which recognizes, right, 2 days ago as the beginning of a new cycle. So on the relative level, um, it would be foolish to completely ignore it. Then it's also foolish to let your life be ruled by these relative. So it's a balance between. So it come back to sort of like, on the one hand, we know, the truth of emptiness, but on the other hand, we cannot not recognize how emptiness is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is, because of emptiness, therefore appearances can arise and cease. So the rising and ceasing of appearances is something that we have to pay attention to. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about wanting happiness and not wanting suffering, that is on the level of the rising and ceasings. And so holding these two together is sort of in part, you could say the path consists of actualizing the inseparability between these two aspects, the emptiness aspect and the rising and ceasing aspect. So, Milarepa is mostly what we're looking at. Do we have some portion of Milarepa that we were planning to start today? I don't have any specific points, but
We had last week we read chapter 24 called Meeting Shengom Rempa on page
okay.
247.
Chapter 24, Shingom Repa. Okay.
Some of us
Yeah.
here, some of us read it, some of us it's new to some of us. So
Okay. So at the very beginning of that?
I think so.
Well, we read through the whole. Oh,
Yeah, okay.
we read through the whole chapter,
Oh, okay, okay.
but we didn't unpack it at all.
Aha, okay, okay. Any requests to unpack this or that?
I remember it being longer than this. Are we in the right chapter? Is it 15?
This one,
24.
24.
Yeah, I think 24 sounds about
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Okay, I lost my place.
He was talking to a phone practitioner.
I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So is there a particular section that anyone think we should look at?
I
Was
was
it there
really,
last week, someone?
we talked a little bit last week, and I was really interested in
Uh-huh.
the first song, and I have this on Kindle, so I don't have a page number.
The short one at the very beginning?
No, no,
Oh, okay.
the next one that begins at the beginning of time where there was mere appearance.
Oh, right.
250. 250.
Uh-huh. 250 on the book form, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that came to my mind with this was just in a way how similar these first verses are to Genesis and the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
This idea of things, kind of leaving the kingdom by naming things.
Uh-huh. Right. Okay.
And
Well, let's take a look at it. I've not looked at it yet. So the context is he is in the presence of some punters, right? And so here a couple brief comment about Burn. Yeah. Again, this has to do with research into history, which I will, just be direct to say, what the lamas that might say about Burn may or may not be based on actually understanding history. Yeah? Which is not to say they're not valid Dharma teachers, but this kind of history research, as the Karmapa is doing, is rather rare among lamas. Although there were, even historically, some lamas who specialized in comparing all the different histories and trying to discern what are we talking about. So here, I want to point out, the burn that is mentioned here bears very little resemblance to the burn lineage that exists today. yeah, the Bunpo teachers that exist today, bears very little resemblance to what's referred to as Bunpos in the songs of Milarepa. In the songs of Milarepa, this Bun seems to be referring to uh, what sometimes anthropologists have called the unnamed religion of every place. Yeah, before religion, before there was any name, and why there was no name is because names are given to contrast, right? Another thing of a similar type, and there were no another thing. It was just what everybody kind of assumed and accepted as the way things work. Yeah, the way the unseen world works. So then you could say it's the pre-organized religion stage of Tibetan culture and society. Yeah, so in a way it's deeply ingrained. Like you can say even now varying degrees of that is still in the Tibetan psyche. Yeah, just like, in European cultures, there's a more ancient layer that didn't have a name, until maybe when Christianity came. Then to contrast, then a name is given. So for whatever reason, to contrast, Buddhists have called this pre-organized religion set of beliefs as Bun. Yeah. So based on this description here, the general contours of this tradition seems to be that rituals can be performed in order to solve problems. And secondly, these rituals often involved sacrifice, like killing of animals. For the most part, there were some cases. They have found some evidence, anthropologists, of like perhaps human sacrifice, which was rare but not completely unknown. But for the most part, it was more animal sacrifice. So here it says, a great Bun ritual. The rich man's sons brought down yaks, goats, and sheep and prepared to kill them. So then, again, for lack of a better term, we might say this is like shamanic. Although the word shamanic is just a general category, there are all kinds of shamans some who do animal sacrifice and some who don't, and blah blah blah. You know, in this case, they seem to. So two main points. It seems like problems can be solved by performing rituals. Rituals often involve a giving of blood, giving of life to unseen forces to appease them or to recruit them to your side. And that's what Milarepa was opposed to. That's what Milarepa was opposed to. And so that's the context of this song. So right before the song, the Jitsun said, for me to perform this ritual, yeah, so basically he says, I can do this, I can do also rituals that you have asked these Bunpos to do. But for me to perform this ritual, no ransoms or materials need to be gathered. Listen here to my Bun ritual. Yeah, so he's turning it around. Then chanting a song of the Dharma put to a Bun melody, he sang this song of realization, of giving examples to this group, this family. So young, oh. So this seems to be some kind of shamanic chant that he began with. So at the beginning of time, where there was mere appearance, for all that there was at the beginning of existence, names were given to perceive outer objects, based on the collected skandhas of the elements, came the great city, the three realms of samsara. Yeah, so often it seems like these shamanic rituals will involve kind of the telling or the retelling of how things came into being. And I think this is quite a common pattern across cultures. So the notion of, like, for example, in the Vedic religion, a lot of the main Vedic rituals is the repeating of a cosmic act that was done, that kind of brought existence out of non-existence. So then all Vedic rituals are in one way or another based on reenacting like the original sacrifice. Right? In the Vedic religion, it's called the sacrifice of Prajapati. Prajapati was sort of a god of some sort, a creator god of some sort, except that paradoxically, Prajapati sacrifices himself to himself in order to bring things into existence. Yeah, so many, again, ancient native traditions have this kind of, like, many of their rituals are based on this notion of an original sacrifice that happened. And now, in order to keep to, or not to keep, or not just to keep, but in order to re-establish, right, the perfect universe, the perfect order, right, that was created at beginningless beginning. Every day, every month, every year, there are varying degrees of ritual that needs to be done in order to reconstitute order. Right? A lot of these creation myths is basically talking about bringing order out of chaos, from undifferentiated chaos into order, structure. So then, on a micro level, on the microcosm, whatever problems that we're facing is a form of mini chaos that has arisen because a more fundamental order has been lost. This is all, not necessarily Buddhist, kind of like, ancient native. So Milarepa is playing with that, or rather, he is structuring his Dharma advice based on what his listeners are expecting him to do. So then here it says, at the beginning of time, where there was mere appearance. Let's look at the footnote 59. Let's see if it helps us. The translation followed the Sichuan edition, so blah, 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 not helpful. Except for experts. At the beginning of time, where there was mere appearance, for all that there was at the beginning of existence, names were given to perceive outer objects. Yeah? So name can also mean characteristics or attributes. Based on the collected skandhas of the elements came the great city, the three realms of samsara. So here, Milarepa is telling the Buddha's version of how things came to be. Now, the Buddha's version of how things came to be isn't really about temporal time. So when Buddhists talk about at the beginning of time, they're not talking about like the way Genesis is talking about the beginning of time. They're not talking about the way the Quran, might be talking about the beginning of time. Yeah, as in 7,000 years ago or 7 bazillion years ago. Yeah? Here, in Buddhist sources, whenever they talk about at the beginning, or even more explicitly at the beginning of time, they're actually talking about at the beginning of each moment of experience. Yeah. So whereas in other traditions, when they talk about Genesis, they're talking about something that happened X number of years in the past. In Buddhist sources, whenever they talk about at the beginning, they're not talking about that. And most explicitly in Dzogchen material, it talks about at the beginning. At the beginning, the ground erupted. Longchenpa talks about this. The ground erupted, and then the two paths of samsara and nirvana kind of diverged. It would be a mistake if you thought he's talking about, how many number of years ago? No, it's talking about in each moment of experience that arises, in each moment of mind, there was the ground, the capital G ground, meaning the basis. Then, because of a single moment of marikpa, lack of rikpa, or anti-rikpa, anti-knowing, or wrong knowing, mistaken knowing, then the one ground became the two paths. Then one path led to Samantabhadra, another path led to samsara. Yeah. So here it says, at the beginning, so in this moment, at the very beginning of each moment of consciousness or awareness or knowing, there is mere appearance. So mere appearance here means there's no fixation yet. There's no grasping, simply mere appearance. For all that there was at the beginning of existence, but then names were given. So the moment, so mere appearance is at the beginning of samsara. So at the beginning of samsara, grasping is not even like the grasping that we know. It's so subtle that there's only mere appearance. But with mere appearance is enough for the bifurcation into subject and object. So the process of identifying and naming, and classifying, and differentiation occurs. And they are based on the collected skandhas of the elements, the aggregates of the elements. Then this whole city of samsara has been built. But all of this is happening in, let's say, the time it takes to snap this finger divided by 60 parts is one moment of this consciousness. So that one moment is all of this has already occurred. So in each moment, so samsara, is not a place. Samsara is a mode of existence that is produced, that is manifested every moment. The primordial Buddha, Samantabhadra or Vajradhara, these different names of Vajrasattva. The difference between Vajrasattva, Samantabhadra, Vajradhara, and us is that in this moment, instead of Marikpa, there is recognition, there is Rikpa. So once there is Rikpa, then it's the all good. which is what Samantabhadra means, which is what Kuntu Zampo means, the all good. That is the state of Buddha. For the rest of us, it's the city of the three realms. So names were given to the inner perceiving mind. Awareness, empty and clear, dawn as a variety of appearances. The basis of all karma and afflictions. Names were then given to that castle built, which is the deceiving castle of the defiled world. The father, mental engagement of clinging to a self, was given the name father. The mother, the mental factors of intention and interest, was given the name mother. So this probably mirrored certain shamanic rituals that talks about, right, the cosmic father and mother that brought all of this into existence. In the shamanic view, all of this existence is good. But from the Buddhist perspective, the good that you're talking about is afflicted. It's not recognizing that there's an all good. There is a Samantabhadra that is thoroughly different from the so-called good that you're trying to, the so-called order that you're trying to re-establish with all these rituals, with all these attempts, with all these other ways. They are temporary fixes because what you're trying to fix and patch back together is already, right, not the all good, not Samantabhadra's kingdom, so to say. So sometimes you read in Dzogchen text, the kingdom of Samantabhadra, and they're using metaphors that, make sense to us. Yeah, so the Humpty Dumpty kingdom is what we think is the one that we try to put Humpty Dumpty back together with our rituals, with our technology, with our sophistication, with our, Botox, with our, Viagra, whatever it is, we try to put back together, so that everything is fine, Humpty Dumpty. But there is Samantabhadra's kingdom that we already lost. And so Milarepa here is, so it's almost like when you read this, you want to go, okay, can I have the so-called Bonpo original, which he is riffing off of, yeah, which is what he's doing here. From the craving and emanating of those two, the father and the mother, came their son, which is the 12 points of interdependence origination, and their daughter, which is the eightfold consciousness, the five of the five senses, the six, the intellect, the seven, which is the I, ego consciousness, the one that now says, oh, I am. And then the eighth, which is the store consciousness, the type of consciousness where karmic seeds are sown in. So that's called the daughter. Then 20 brothers and sisters arose. So 12 and 8, that's how you come up with 20. There were 22 family members who arose. So 20 kids plus mom and dad. Because of the arising of these family members, the 84,000 afflictions arose. 360 hindering spirits arose. 84,000 demons and obstructing spirits arose. And the 404 kinds of disease arose. This is the first chapter. Enumerating the family members. Yeah, so he's saying, what you value so much, Do you really know what it is? Let me tell you what it is. Yeah, so basically, he goes through that. Yeah, it's very nice. The 22 different family members became afflicted by the ignorance of mind, along with every other human illness. The upper parts are afflicted with a fever. The heat of anger blazes like a fire. One wheezes at enemies like a yak. The lower parts are afflicted with the illness of cold. So these are like common notions of like illnesses, cold type illnesses, heady types illnesses. So the cold, what is at the root of cold diseases? Desire. What is at the root of heady diseases? Anger. The infection of selfishness blocks urine. The middle is afflicted with the tumor of delusion. So basically, these are the three poisons. The limbs are afflicted by an illness of wind. The arrogance towards quality is disturbed like one who is lewd. So here are again categories that were commonly understood by his audience to be symptoms of problems. So he's now layering over that and say, where these problems really come from? They come from the kleshas. Basically, that's what he's saying. He's matching them to the categories recognizable to his audience. Then praising self and slandering others, one is pierced with a thorn. Sick with the 5 poisons in the bed of the enemy, distraction. The head rests on the pillow of perceiver and perceived. One has no appetite for the food of virtue, and there's a craving thirst for the water of non-virtue. The medicine of virtuous activity makes one vomit. The mucus of idle chatter is flung in the 10 directions. On top, one covers up with the mantle of the 8 concerns. Yeah, the 8 worldly concerns, right? 4 that we like and 4 that we don't. The 4 that we like is pleasure, praise, gain, and fame, good name, good reputation. The 4 that we don't like: pain, loss, criticism, or blame, and loss of reputation, defame. Underneath, the small mat of pretense is laid down. One is surrounded by the infants of the 10 non-virtues: 3 of the body, 4 of speech, and 3 of the mind. Many material things go along with the mind of confusion. There is strong clinging to desirable food and wealth. This horrible disease, oh, how unfortunate. This is the 2nd chapter. So first chapter, enumerating the family members. Chapter 2, enumerating the illnesses. So it's like it's so he is following the diagnosis of these shamans. So first, who might be responsible or who might be affected. Then, what are the types of problems? Then the next is casting the divination is the 3rd chapter. So this next chapter is divination. So the shaman needs to now divine, what exactly is wrong. But Milarepa's type of divination, what is it? What is it that brings benefit to this? Divinations and burn practice bring benefit. Therefore, this yogi will consult divination and astrology. So again, he's playing with that. He says, according to the Bonpos, divination is very necessary to figure out what is wrong. So he says, okay, now this yogi is talking about himself. Now I will do divination. But of course, his divination is as follows. The messenger, yeah, is the motivation of life's impermanence, is sent to summon a guru, a master of divination. So when you have a problem, you send your servant to go find a shaman to go determine what is wrong. Then the mat of stable faith is laid out, and the drink of respect and devotion is poured. All is laid upon the divination, which is devotion to Dharma. The divination of profound meaning is requested to be cast. The guru, a master of divination, lays out the chart of the 4 elements. Then the year cycle of the 12 dependent links is calculated, and the trigrams of the 8 consciousnesses are cast. These trigrams are based on the Taoist system, the 8 out of the yin yang. These are turned by the mewa of the 9 progressive yanas. Yeah, so again, he's matching categories of divination with dharma categories. Then the enemies and friends of virtue and non-virtue conflict. This is the 3rd chapter, casting the divination. So once the divination is cast, now the reading. For the 22 family members, the reading is not good. So, bad news. I remember many years ago when I visited Japan. I have a friend who is from a priest family. Japanese Buddhism, for the most part, they don't have celibate priesthood. They're monks, the quote unquote monks. They're mostly, not exclusively, but mostly they are family married. So it's become somewhat, in a way, kind of like an occupation. Anyway, one of my friends was someone from one of these priest family, and so he took me to all the famous Buddhist monasteries and temples, and so at every place there's like these divinations that you can do, and Japanese temples and monasteries, their divinations are more user friendly. You cast a lot, and then you can get these strips of paper where the basic divination is laid out. And so then after that, but I remember my friend saying, he's like, no, don't do the divination. I said, why? Are they not accurate? He's like, no, it's all bad news. He says, it's all bad news. I said, why? And of course, he can say this, because he comes from a temple family, as in, only you get to say it, if you're from that background. He says, yeah, it's mostly negative, so that people will commission, this or that ritual to be done. And, so yeah, that's like the communist, in a way, criticism of religion. It's like you create the fear of hell, and then you provide the solution of deliverance from the fear that you created. Yeah, so here, for the 22 family members, the reading is not good. It's a negative reading, So, it's not like Milare by saying, divination is always bad news, but it's like, yeah, it's almost always, that's how people expect it, that yes, there's a problem, But here, his explanation of problem on the basis of the divination of samsara and nirvana. Since samsara without any beginning, the overflow of confusion's ignorance spilled, and the acrid smell, the scorch of pure vision, came forth. Along with the defilement of attachment and aggression by the conditions of the overflow, acrid smell, and defilement, the male deity of wisdom disappeared in the sky. The local deity of great bliss departed and is no more. The Drala deity of self awareness too went black and is gone. Because of the departure of these three deities, ghosts brought harm to everything. So, again, this is based on indigenous beliefs that each one of us have these three protectors. Sometimes it's five, which is the male deity, the female deity, or the paternal deity, the maternal deity, and the local deity. The usual five is called the paternal, maternal, the local, the drala, which means enemy deity, and then the life deity, Sokla. These are the five deities. They are responsible for a different aspect of our well-being. Right? They respond. So if you want to think about it, you could think about it. If you want to think about it, away from the language of deities, you can think of it as like your basic like immune and wellness is determined by five factors, five energies. Yeah, so, but here, Milarepa relates these ideas with wisdom, great bliss, self-awareness. So he says, when these three deities depart from you, then malevolent ghosts come. They harm with the bad view of the eight worldly concerns. And the origin of suffering, that ruinous demon arose. The high demon with the blazing fire of anger does harm. The low demon with the churning water of desire does harm. The Naga demon with the darkness of ignorance does harm. The Gyalgong with turbulent wind of pride does harm. The class of Tsin with the deception of jealousy does harm. Vajrasadhu with the partiality of selfishness does harm. The Mamo with the boasting of taking the self as real does harm. So now, all those categories that Tibetans think of as malevolent, he's matching it with kleshas, basically. Vajrasadhu is Doje Lekpa, which of course, in another context, he is a Dharma protector that has been subdued by Guru Rinpoche. He's one of the, especially said to protect the Dzogchen teachings, the four protectors, Ekadzati, Rahula, Doje Legpa. Three usually. Sometimes a fourth is added, Gompo, Maning Gompo, a form of Mahakala. The haunting ghost with the latent tendencies and bad karma does harm, and so on and so forth. So this is, and so to then at the bottom of that he says, and to block this negative divination, I will perform a burn ritual. And so this is the fourth chapter. This is like, okay, now we have determined, yes, this is the cause of your problem. Now, time to do the ritual. So now this yogi will chant a burn ritual. When fervently chanting a practice of burn, a Burnpa learned in the profound scriptures does accordingly. On the very first morning, the beginning of time, the ritual met of the three Pitakas, the three collections of the Buddhist teachings, is laid down. The ransom of hearing, contemplating, and meditating is offered. The clean food offering of Samaya is laid out. Chanting and meditating of the four tantras begins, and the select offering of freedom from attachment is made. For the male deity of wisdom disappearing in the sky, I give the pointing out that meets with ignorance, the base. Pointing out instructions. For the local deity of great bliss, I do an exorcism of the four Maras. For the departing of the Drala deity of self-awareness, I offer the ransom of natural revulsion. that is talking about being fed up with samsara, having a determination to be free. For the bad omen of the eight worldly concerns, I strike with the knife of desire-free awareness. For the ruinous demon of the origin of suffering, I put a hex on him in the space of great bliss. So again, so he's matching, right, Dharma with all the ritual details that a shaman might do. So at the end of that section, this is the 5th chapter, Recovery from the Demons. 6th chapter, the Feast of Thanksgiving. Let's see. So the Feast of Thanksgiving is the 6th chapter. What's the 7th? Let's see. The 7th is... I see the 8th. I don't see the 7th.
It's on page 259.
Oh, yeah. 259. 7th chapter, Serving Superior Ones at the Banquet. Yeah. So during the feast, there's division into the choices. The best portion is given to the higher guest. Then the 8th is the banquet, the general giving, the 8th chapter. And then the 9th chapter is the final chapter, the discussion, meaning like the here I think it's more talking about like so after everything, the feast, the banquet, just relaxing and having a good time. So at the end of the whole ritual. So this whole chapter is basically Milarepa reframing, like how do you really solve your problems on the ritual kind of procedure of a typical quote unquote Bunpo ritual.
Yeah, he draws a wonderful picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of sums it all up, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I like the vision. I like the, I guess when you do lose the deities, that's when all the ghosts come in. When you
Yes.
when you lose your self-awareness.
Yes.
That's a good description.
Oh yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
We wake up in the morning and due to something happening, we lose our self-awareness. Then the
Yeah.
rest of the day, it's all demons turning up.
Yep. That's the truth. That's so true.
Yeah.
You did a great job. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
I mean, I saw several new levels.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, this is an interesting chapter. Certainly, you can have a whole weekend retreat, on this. Speaking of that, I I had said, but then I didn't follow up, and that we will try to do a program at the end of January. So, general consensus: do you all think it's too late now to try to get this program moving, or we have time?
Yeah.
We get started now.
Sorry.
It seems like there's time if we get started now.
Okay. And I think we were going to do something on basically, I mean, we'll think of some more exact title, but it'll be something basically on, well, Happy New Year, mortality.
No.
Yeah, it's about death and dying, and it's about that's the program that we thought we're going to do.
All right, what happened to the 21 Taras? I've been listening to 21 Taras that
Uh-huh.
the Karmapa did.
Yes.
I can
Yeah.
send it to you guys.
Yeah. The idea is that at the end of every month I'm doing a program, and each of these like different like groups or centers that I generally teach at will anchor them. So then the end of January will be the EBS. Kind of EBS will do the main kind of pushing of the program and letting people know, and then people who want to join can register with EBS, and it's not going to be live casted on Facebook. It's only available on Zoom, blah, blah, blah. Then end of February will be like Urban Dharma that's going to kind of do that, blah, blah, blah. Then end of March, somebody else, that might be anchoring it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea is to, so I mean, Tara can come back, at one of these. I mean, joking aside, in a way, it's like a good way to start the year to think about impermanence. But how to skillfully present it so that you don't get people going, I don't think I want to think about this right now.
Yeah, I'm real interested in that.
Right. So I think let's say this, publicly kind of commit myself, and then we'll get it moving, that before Monday is over, I will send the description to Melissa. So before Monday is over, I'll send the description to Melissa and the proposed schedule. And quickly, Melissa, you talk to whoever that needs to be involved in talking about it. Then you all can create that event, and and if you need
I'll help.
me, yeah, good. If you need me to create the Zoom room, it's no problem at all. I know that EBS got a second Zoom or something like that, but the Urban Dharma one is only used by me and nobody else. So I can create the Zoom room if that helps. But then there are advantages as well to if you guys create the Zoom room. Although in this case it doesn't really matter. The only advantage is that whoever is hosting it can do live on Facebook, but we're not planning to do that in any case, so maybe it's not important. Yeah, so I'm just saying either way. If you want me to create the Zoom room, I can easily create the Zoom room.
How many people can you have on your Zoom?
500.
But you have a bigger Zoom room than we have normally.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, we might not have enough space.
You have 500. You can do 500.
Yeah, we can do
Well,
500.
we don't have anywhere near that. So.
Right. The general one is 100, I think, and
That's
that's
what we
like
have.
more than enough, for our purposes. So then, meanwhile, even before Monday, perhaps what Melissa and gang can decide is just simply the wording. You can prepare that as in, like, what is the registration cost and blah blah blah, and how to register. You can work on that. Then quickly, once I give it to you on Tuesday, the description. I mean, on before Monday is over. See, I'm already like postponing it to Tuesday. That's the lazy part. But like we could say, on before the end of Monday, then within Tuesday or Wednesday, then it can be announced. And yeah.
I gotta go because John and I have to figure out how to put your
Okay.
meditation on our 12
Yes.
steps like Melissa does. We don't know how to do that.
All right. Okay. Ta-ta.
See you. Ta-ta.
Bye, Karen. See you in a little bit.
Bye.
Hi, Karen.
Bye.
So,
Are you
yeah.
talking about the last weekend of the month of
Yes.
January 29th?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, 30 and 31st. Are you talking about
Yes.
that Friday?
Yeah, the 29th is on a Friday and 30th, 31st is on a Sunday. So it would be that whole weekend?
Yeah, it will be that weekend, except I don't think we need to start on a Friday night.
Okay.
We should plan on, I think, the daytime of Saturday, beginning, like maybe, I don't know, yours time like 9, going to your time 5.
Yeah, I like that.
And then Sunday, we can go till like 1, your time.
Start at 9?
Yeah, start at 9 and go till 1 your time. Yeah.
Right. We will get working on it.
So yeah,
And this will be open to all people,
yeah.
whoever's interested.
So anyone who wants to join, and then of course, you guys will handle the communications and all of that. Yeah.
And would you open it up to your other people too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like everybody. So
Yep.
then it's just that each month a particular unit will handle the communications, will handle the registration, and
Okay.
handle all that other stuff. In terms of publicizing it, I think as wide as we are able to publicize, we should publicize. Yeah.
Casey?
Doesn't Cheryl or EBS have someone that's kind of in charge of making the emails and publishing and sending them out?
I think Mike used to do that. Is he still with EBS?
Yeah,
Okay, I think Mike used to do that.
yeah, he helps with that. So, Melissa, do you want me to let Cheryl know? I could just send her a message and let her know this so she can be thinking about it too, or you want to do that?
I can do it.
Because there'll be some resources of the board that'll help, right? Like Mike's help, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, Mike takes care of a lot of the Facebook ads.
yeah.
So, Dr. Lye, can you please send us another wonderful photo of yourself for the advertising?
Yeah, I can find somewhere.
But if not, we have some of the old ones too.
Yeah, I can find something somewhere. Yeah. So good.
Yes, it's exciting. Thank you.
So it will be on the subject of impermanence, life and death. Is that what this is?
Yeah, it's basically I have to find a way to kind of anchor it. Part of it is coming out of like discussions with Betsy and Cheryl about a project that they're currently doing. So and somebody else, in Nashville was asking. So I did, like before the pandemic started, the last program that we did was a program on POA. But it wasn't like POA in the sense of like focus on the technical details of POA, which I think often, I mean, if you know something about POA, often people, when they talk POA, there's a lot of emphasis on, like, oh, let's learn the technical details of POA. But I did that program more on which I would argue is to be more important than the technical details of poa, is the understanding and the approach to poa. So it'll be something like that. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Ta-ta.
Todd, thank you so much for
Thank you.
showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you.